Howdy, boys and girls, and welcome to the final week of the 2016-17 season, otherwise known as the week of massive ambivalence. Hi, Carla. I'm sorry. Our bowl games did not go well either way, and so as we were talking about this today, it's like, oh, yeah, I guess we gotta, huh?
Yeah, we kind of promised it last week, so
we should never do
yeah.
that. We shouldn't do that ever again. We shouldn't do that ever again.
We'll remember that for next year. So, well, cheers to our seasons.
Yes, absolutely. And man, at least the Rose Bowl was entertaining as hell. I really thought that was overtime. But that one of the better bowl games that I got to watch. I certainly cannot say that about the Fiesta Bowl, and that's where we will stop with that game. Although
I have to. Why you're wearing a Pens jersey? Is that?
Woo! It's hockey season. No, I mean, and I have to. I mean, I can't shy away from it completely because Clemson is one of the teams that we'll be talking about this week. But before we get to the title game, which is coming up on Monday night, obviously, I have just kind of a couple of broad questions since we only have one game to talk about. I want to hear Carla.
Okay.
Your least favorite and most favorite thing of the college football season we're about to wrap up.
Oh, most favorite thing is probably a little bit selfish for both of us, and that was the emergence of the Big Ten. You know, after all of these years of hearing, you know, obviously everybody talks about the SEC all the time, and, you know, with Clemson's success and Florida State's success, and then Louisville's early success this year, everybody, you know, so it was like SEC 1, ACC 2. And it's been a long time since the Big Ten has been relevant. And I think you could actually make a very strong case this year that from top to bottom, the Big Ten was probably the best conference in the country. Alabama, I mean, the ACC had really, really good teams and some teams, right?
Right.
And the SEC this year, it was Alabama and everybody else. It was kind of an off year for the SEC, definitely. So
Right.
I think you could make a pretty solid case that the Big Ten was the best conference. I mean, having 3 teams ranked in the top 6 at the end of the year kind of seals that deal. It's fun to have the Big Ten East be a 3-team race again. You know, to have Michigan back in the fold, back being relevant. I know that's not necessarily a great thing for your Buckeyes, but at the same time, it's fun to have Michigan relevant again. Yeah, it's fun to have Michigan relevant again. It's fun to have Penn State back in the conversation again. And you've got to believe D'Antonio is going to turn around Michigan State. Sure. After a fluky year. So you've got 4 teams that really have the potential to really duke it out next year. And I think that's going to be insanely entertaining. And it's just a lot of fun to have the Big Ten back. So I would say that's probably my favorite thing. What's my least favorite thing?
The Fiesta Bowl. That's
Fiesta Bowl, yeah.
That's me.
Drama, maybe? Off-field drama with coaching staffs, and we joked about that with Bowlapalooza about how, you know, Tennessee needs a shrink. You know, like I don't know, and I guess maybe that's part of my bias a little bit with, you know, I'm living in SEC country. I hear about all this SEC stuff, but there's a lot of kind of just drivel that happens that you just kind of scratch your head and go, what?
Okay.
Tennessee was kind of a prime case of that this year.
Right.
You know, we'll talk a little bit about Alabama's drama at the moment. But it's like, you know, even the top tier teams can't seem to escape this kind of stuff. You know, the Minnesota stuff heading into the bowl. It's just like, can we just play football? Like, get rid of the side dramas, get rid of all this other stuff that's going on, and just play football. And it just seems like that's become more of a forefront topic lately. And I just kind of wish it would go away so that we wouldn't have to like juggle that kind of stuff while we're trying to talk about college football, which is just a game. I think we need to remind ourselves of that all the time. It's just a game, and these are just kids, it's just like, bring it back into focus. So I guess if I had to pick something, that was it. But the Fiesta Bowl would probably be a close second.
Okay, that's good. I was going to say, but by about halftime during the Fiesta Bowl, I was having a hard time remembering that it was just a game. But in the grand scheme of things, and I'm actually doing okay by now. I think Ohio State will have a pretty good team next year. And JT Barrett, who said today he's coming back, he's going to be playing behind a better offensive line. He's going to have better wide receivers, better running game. We're going to be okay. My favorite thing, and it's similar to what you said, but perhaps on a little more micro level. That Penn State has come back to the point that it has. It's a very freaking. They're going to be really, really good next year. But I say this a lot. I've said this on the show before. For a conference, for the perception of conference, its brand names must be good, right? And that is a big thing that has hurt the Big Ten over the last decade and a half with Michigan, and over the last half decade with Ohio State. For the perception of the Big Ten to be what it is, Ohio State has to be good, and Michigan has to be good, and Penn State has to be good, and Nebraska and Wisconsin have to be good. And this year, to a large degree, you got that. I would still love to see a better overall level in the West. You mentioned the East is going to be could be scary competitive next year. But to have Penn State come back, acquit itself the way it did, and come back so quickly from the problem with the scholarships, that is a lot to overcome. And that's good for them, good for Penn State fans. But it's good for it works out to be good for the whole conference too. All I have to do is figure out a way to beat them next fall. So, my least favorite thing, and this actually occurred to me, a smart person to whom you may or may not be married, pointed this out the evening of or the day after the semifinal games. And this had not occurred to me. Only one of the semifinal games since we've been doing the playoffs has been remotely competitive, and that was Ohio State and Alabama. You may have heard this. Having watched these games with the aforementioned smart person. I don't know what to do about that. I am a fan of the playoff. I like. I'm not sure if 4 teams is the right number. If you need 8, if you need 6, and play in stuff, and I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I feel like we're really close to having something that is sort of unimpeachable. But we're not quite there yet, and the lack of competitive games in the semifinals. Maybe that's an indication of something needs to be switched around, and maybe we need to place more emphasis on conference champions. I don't. If you look at performance in bowl games, I think I wouldn't say for sure that Penn State would have beaten Clemson, but I bet they would have scored. So I don't know what the answer is. But that is an irritation in an area that I think it's overall it's good for college football to have this playoff in place. But there's something that needs to be tweaked, and we're not quite there yet. So let's work.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. Like, you're right. And what's the answer here? I mean, the first year we got the playoff was the year that your Buckeyes came in as the 4th seed and ran the table, which was like everybody was like, the playoff works, works. And after that first year, we were all on board with that. The playoff works. Like, that was awesome. And then last year it was just kind of me. I mean, the national title game was good last year.
Yes, and should be again.
Yeah, but it was just one of the. Yeah, you're right. It's and obviously David was right about the whole, like, it's not, they're not competitive. But what's the answer? I don't think the answer would have been to swap Ohio State for Penn State this year. Would they have scored? Maybe. But we'll talk about it. I don't know. I mean, that Clemson defense is pretty darn good, and so would it have been the same result? It might not have been exactly the same, but I think it probably would have been close to what we got. So yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I think what we're seeing finally is something that we saw in like microchasms during when we just had the bowl season, is the wildly different style of play of each of these conferences.
Yeah.
I think the playoff is really kind of bringing that to light about, you know, the way that the key to winning the Big Ten is completely different than the key to winning the SEC. You know, it takes a completely different style of team, and I think we're finally seeing that in the playoff, and the fact that, you know, that when your Buckeyes won, you could have argued that the way that that team operated was closer to an ACC team than a Big Ten team that year, just in the way that the offense was kind of structured. Having to essentially figure things out on the fly with Cardale Jones. You know, maybe that's what we're seeing. Maybe we're seeing this difference in style of play. Who knows? I don't think the answer is expanding to more teams. I think that dilutes the product even further. But I hear people saying that, you know, they want to see 6 teams or 8 teams. If it means better games, maybe, but I don't know. I think we stick with 4 teams for now and see what happens.
Okay. I struggle with this the way it sounds like you are too. I don't know what the answer is, but I want this to work. I really, really do, because I think I think it is the best thing of my lifetime, that a way of figuring out who a national champion is, and maybe, you know, it's just not quite there yet. Be that as it may, we have a national championship game coming up on Monday. To do my normal thing, this will be played in Raymond James Stadium in lovely Tampa, Florida. Alabama is a 7-point favorite. I had not thought to look this up, but there is a over and under is about 50.5 to 51 points. And I have to feel like if you're getting scores total up into that area, if you're taking the over, you've got to be thinking that maybe Clemson could win this. But I'm going to want to get ahead of myself or you. What do you think?
Well, this game got a whole lot more entertaining after both of the semifinals were over. The potential for this game. I mean, we saw what Clemson did. Let's be brutal first. Okay, we'll rip the Band-Aid off, get it out of the way, and talk about the Fiesta Bowl first. The Clemson defensive line was the key to that game. I mean, it really was.
Yes.
Push. They got consistent push the entire game, consistently in the backfield. That's a good Ohio State offensive line.
Young, but good.
It's good. And the fact that Clemson got that kind of push was remarkable. Will they be able to get that kind of push against Alabama? I don't know. So they were able to the defense was able to stop the Ohio State offense. Deshaun Watson actually finally returned. We saw a glimpse of his 2015 season in that game. A little bit more consistency, a little bit, you know, more mobile with his legs, something that we hadn't seen quite as much of this year. But I think what's interesting is the fact that he threw 2 interceptions in that game, and one of them was actually kind of critical. He threw it in the end zone. Now did it affect the end, and did it affect anything in the game? Not really, not one
little bit.
But that's kind of a mistake that you don't want to see from your quarterback in the second quarter when you haven't completely put the game away yet. And, you know, that kind of momentum shift really could have turned the game had things that worked a little bit differently. So that's a little bit cause of concern. But you've got to think, with Clemson coming in off of the shutout, they're on a mission. Right. I mean, that's very evident from this team. It's very evident from the things that you're seeing leading into this game that they want this rematch in the worst possible way. And I think they have a bit of momentum considering all the chaos that's happening right now with Alabama. With Kiffin being punted out the door, he never saw a job that he didn't like getting fired from. They fired him before he could quit. Exactly. leave it to Saban to fire a guy that had already quit. That's awesome. I love that whole storyline. But at the same time, we talked about this last week when we were talking about the Alabama-Washington matchup, and how I mentioned that I thought it was good for Jalen Hurts that Kiffin was still there. What's the mindset of that freshman quarterback right now, considering the fact that he did not have a good Peach Bowl?
Right.
It was Bo Scarborough that carried that team offensively. But again, the Alabama defense does what the Alabama defense does.
Mm-hmm.
It just slowly milked on that Washington offense and finally, wore them down. That's what they've done all season. That's been their bread and butter for the last 4 years. The Alabama defense just wears down the other offense, and they go on to win the game. That's where this is going to be really critical, right, in this national championship matchup, is whether the Alabama defense can stop the Clemson offense and vice versa, whether the Clemson defensive line can get that same push that they got against your Buckeyes against Alabama. Now, I think size is going to play a huge factor here, but with all the chaos happening in Alabama, you've got to believe that Clemson's going in going, oh, baby, we got this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. When you're looking at that over-under, a higher scoring game would favor Clemson. I think Clemson has a much better shot in this game this year, and especially now, than even I would have given them after watching both of those two teams on Saturday night. You watch Alabama and you're like, yeah, they weren't really all that impressive. But it's the little stuff that they do all year. Alabama hasn't been impressive all season if you just watch them. Mm. It's all the little things that they do right that makes them the dominant team that they are. I said this in the very first show of the year. I'm going to keep picking Alabama until somebody tells me not to.
Okay.
So I think Alabama still – I got to pick them because I haven't seen anybody that's been able to stop that defensive line. But gosh, I think Clemson really is getting some boost out of, the mystery behind the Alabama offense right now. Kiffin being gone. No, there was no imagination on the offense. We got that from Kiffin, or we got that from Saban right after the game in that firing announcement. Interesting. Saban being Saban is on the defensive already. In the press conference today, he said, we're not talking about it anymore. Right. We're moving forward. So he's already being dismissive of the whole thing, saying Sarkisian's fine. If I'm an Alabama fan, I'm a little bit nervous about where the offense is. I'm not worried about my defense. My defense is going to be fine. Sure. But can the offense score enough points to be able to win the game? They've been able to do it for 2 straight years. I'm going to say yes, they're going to be able to. This is going to be a much more low-scoring game than we saw last year. I think 21 points could win it. But I think it's going to be really close. I still think Alabama wins, but I think Clemson's got a much better shot. Okay.
I'm thinking of Deshaun Watson. All season long, it seems like he's been prepping for the next step of his career, concentrating on spending time in the pocket, going through checks, making the correct throw, and then running when you need to, and that's going to ensure that he's drafted in the first round. It would come springtime. I'm not sure that beats Alabama. But perhaps the Deshaun Watson that we saw in the Fiesta Bowl is the guy who could beat Alabama. If you want to counteract kind of the straight line upfield pressure from a defensive line or a front seven, a mobile quarterback is one way to do that. Because he showed during the game against a good Ohio State defense that he can still he can still get outside. Hey, there's a cat. Hi, cat.
Hi, Charlie. It wouldn't be our last show of the year if we didn't say hi to Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
You can't actually see him, but he's like I can't see the monitor because he's standing right in front of me. Here,
There he is.
There he is. Show cat. Leave me alone. And I'm debating. Tail, it's fabulous. I'm debating it because I'm not sure if I'm feeling this way just to kind of make myself feel better about what happened in the Fiesta Bowl. And I don't think that's it. I think there is. I wonder about what happens with Alabama's offense with a freshman quarterback who had a rough game in the Peach Bowl, and he doesn't need to be spectacular, but he needs to be competent. How confident is he going to be in going into national championship game as a freshman with a brand new offensive coordinator? That's a tough thing to ask of anybody. I am fairly confident in saying that Clemson has a really, really good defense, particularly if you're talking about front seven. So they can slow down Alabama, an Alabama offense that maybe is not the fireworks that you might need to see to overcome something like the Tigers have. And then I think about 2014, and I think about Ezekiel Elliott and how here is an upperclassman who very clearly motivated, and the coach just asked him to do this because we're relying on it. Ohio State was relying on a guy who had not played quarterback all season. And he stepped up his game, motivated to do this, and really carried the team through 3 games, the conference championship and the 2 playoff games. I think Deshaun Watson can do that, and I think he will be motivated to do that. Having played Alabama in such a tight game and lost a year ago, I will regret this, but we're not doing another show till like the end of next August, so I'm picking Clemson. I think the offense, they have the offense to put a little pressure on Alabama's offense. Just the points they put on the board. I think a very good senior quarterback can make things happen. And my one caveat would be if he I mentioned the interceptions when we were talking about the semifinal games. If he throws 2 picks against Alabama, he's absolutely screwed. Because Alabama, if there's a team that knows what to do with interceptions more than Ohio State's defense does, it's Alabama's. So that's something to be mindful of. But if he takes care of the football, I'm going to pick the Tigers.
Yeah, analogy could also potentially work for Bo Scarborough. The whole freshman quarterback, and that's kind of where I thought you were going with that originally, was that's exactly what he did in the Peach Bowl. Was, he had a quarterback that was kind of floundering, the offense didn't really get going, Washington scores first, and then all of a sudden Scarborough comes out of nowhere. And runs for 180 and that incredible 68-yard touchdown run that all just kind of made everybody scratch their heads and go, "Where's this been all season?"
Right.
But yeah, so I think it could work either way. But I can't say anything negative about picking Clemson in this game because you're right. If Watson can take care of the football, and the defense can stop Alabama's offense, that's it. I don't know if Alabama can score enough points.
Right.
And that's been their mojo all year. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all kind of plays out.
If the combined score is getting up towards 50 points, that's y'all better be hoping you're watching because that's going to be a game, and that could be a big upset when the game is all over.
Yep.
Carla, it has been a pleasure once again. Our 5th season of the Carla and Crappy Show.
Yes. Somehow we've survived 5 years. I have no idea how we've done this. Cheers to you, and cheers to you guys for watching this for whatever reason you guys do that. We do appreciate it. It's nice to know that people pay attention to this. As much fun as we're having, we would probably do it anyway. But it's cool to know that there are people watching. And I suppose I should have learned last week not to make promises like this. But I suppose we will see you next fall for season 6 of the Carla and Crappy Show. Yep, sounds like a plan to me. Awesome. Until then, what are we going to do with our Wednesday nights? We're just going to hang out and just kind of talk college football anyway because what is that? That's rivalry night on NBC's the Sports Network. We can watch the Penguins and the Rangers and the Penguins and the Flyers and the Penguins and whoever else. There you go. That's right. It's hockey season. It's hockey season. Let's go Pens. Carla, thank you very much. Yep, thanks as always. Thank you, guys. We will talk to you again next fall.
Bye.